Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today we're looking at the Savage Dragon issue number 41, cover dated September 1997. Cover, starting off with that, is a great distillation of what we're going to be seeing in this issue. Kind of everything leads to Barbaric and Ricochet's wedding, and of course what superhero wedding would be complete without some sort of fight between some antagonists and our heroes. So again, the cover depicts that with our two figures in the foreground here, Savage Dragon and this guy, forget his name, Screwhead or something. I don't know. Probably something like that. And the midground background kind of elements definitely reflecting the whole wedding aspect of it. So pretty solid cover overall and gets the point across of what you're going to be reading in the comics. So a good advertisement for what is contained within this book. So enough about the cover. Let's have a look inside. So maybe the beginning of Erik Larsen's political leanings kind of showing up in the comic book. If you've read The Savage Dragon over the years, he's included presidents pretty much in and around every election from a certain point. Maybe, I don't think it started with Biden. It might have started with Obama. I'm not quite sure exactly where it started. I mean, you know, he's got Clinton here. Don't know if he's endorsing him necessarily because in the comic at this point, but later on, that's kind of what he would do. Clearly, obviously more on the left, not that I care, you know, everyone's entitled to their opinion and their own politics. But if you follow Erik Larsen online, it's pretty clear he's on the Democratic side, just pointing that out. So Erik Larsen, creator, writer, penciler, inker, Chris Eliopoulos, letterer, iHawk doing the colors. So the creative team has stayed pretty consistent for a while now. Also, Josh Acorn or Acorn? No, Acorn. It's got to be Acorn. There's always kind of a funny comment here, so let's see how funny it is this month. Has pictures of Princess Diana that he's willing to let go for a damn fair price considering what he went through to get them. Okay, I don't know how funny that is, but again, great cartoonist, Erik Larsen. You do recognize or do assume at least that that's Bill Clinton, right? It makes a lot of sense. I think it's not like exactly bang on, but enough that we know that it's him, right? I can tell from this crooked eye from the other side, you know, no one's, you know, perfectly symmetrical. I do feel like he did look at a picture and, you know, get a little bit of information, visual information from that. But then drew it in his own kind of Erik Larsen style. This is kind of a funny sequence. I'm not going to read it all out, but basically Super Patriots chastising America and its dirty dealings with the military and stuff. Again, probably Erik Larsen venting some frustrations from historical, you know, moments that he doesn't agree with, using Super Patriot as a cipher, but, you know, it basically ends up by saying, you know, yet here I am again working for the government, right? So what are you going to do? We get a first shot of those costumes I talked about last review, last issue. Sorry, not there, but this one here, Super Patriots and Savage Dragon are wearing, you know, what I would qualify as like Captain America kind of rip-off costumes, but, you know, definitely that patriotic American vibe, you know, the newest or newer version of Youngblood, I guess is what they're going for here. Even Barbaric has his uniform kind of Americanized. And this whole page sets up kind of an interesting plot point where Barbaric is kind of saying, yeah, make some toys of us, you know, that stuff's cool. And this guy's saying, I was told that, you know, Dragon wasn't into that kind of stuff, right? And then he kind of lets slip that Ricochet's pregnant. So he kind of explains that he can't, you know, he says that I can't sell that. I can't merchandise a couple of kids having a baby out of wedlock. Ask her to marry you for Christ's sake. So that's basically the conceit of the wedding, right? It's just Barbaric wanting merchandising done, and public image wise, it's going to make a lot more sense for them to have a baby if they're already married. You know, again, public perception wise, definitely, you know, in a position like this, I guess, you know, in this universe, celebrity and working for the government, that's the kind of stuff you have to compromise and do, I guess. It does make sense as kind of a real world element. I thought this was funny too. He's like, get a haircut. That look went out 5 years ago. And that's probably when Barbaric started showing up in the Dragon. I'd like artistically, again, Larsen throughout this book is solid. I do feel like he's simplified his style at this point, and it's a little rougher and cleaner and not so much hatching and stuff. You could probably, like, overall on this page, there's really not a lot of it. He's cleaned it up. It's gotten a little more closer to animation maybe, right? But he's still throwing in interesting textures here and there. And also, I don't notice a lot of screen tones in this issue, so I feel like if I'm mentioning it, I'll keep an eye out as we go through the issue that there probably weren't a lot. The nipple fetish is back, so that's fine. Yeah, I was going to say, I just like here how he's inserted the establishing shot of the building they're in, right? And just kind of done the whole negative space thing, which saves a lot of time artistically and still, you know, gives you all the information you really need. Cleverly, you know, having to go out of the page here, out of the bleed, and have this panel overlap, you know, creating, again, that sense of layering. He's using those good old image tricks. Just something about this page I really like the composition of. So Ricochet, sorry, I keep calling him Ricochet. She's Ricochet. Barbaric shows up with the flowers, with the ring, you know, proposes, but in such a kind of pitiful way, I guess is what I would say. But yeah, so, you know, as she accepts, Barbaric is, you know, given the A-OK sign to the PR guy. And I mean, you know, he's the PR guy because of before, because I mean, gotta say, just very rare that Larson drew this so badly that I don't know if I literally recognize him as the character from before, but you assume that it is, right? Also kind of a weird tangent to have the fingers in front of the doorway here. Yeah, I feel like maybe this was an issue that Larson was working faster than usual. So maybe that simpler art style and things like this are due to that. But overall, it's still very effective and the storytelling is great. Something that shows up here, right? And here, I don't know if I've ever seen a thought balloon in Savage Dragon before. And I seem to remember, you know, reading about Erik Larson at some point, not having them and then introducing them at some point in the run and just trying to work with them, I guess. Maybe this is the issue. I don't know. There might be issues before where they're there as well, but they're kind of used prominently in this one, right? And you know, it was just a bit off-putting when I noticed it in the sense that, you know, I don't feel like there's a lot of that that's been used before. And in this issue, we're going to get a lot of it. So we get a nice, cool foreshortened shot of the dragon getting punched in the face with one of his by one of his trainees here. Forget her name. There's so many characters in this issue, but yeah. So basically, again, the main thrust of the story is with Barbaric. So Barbaric shows up, and this is again the conceit of the thought balloons just all of a sudden show up. I don't know again if it's just experimenting in this issue, if it's going to be something in you know the few next issues or how that's going to go. I guess I'll have to pay attention to that as well. Still haven't seen any screen tones, I don't think. Let's look really quick. Yeah, this is the page I mentioned on. Yeah, I don't see any screen tones on this page either, which again lends to my hypothesis that he was going through this issue pretty quickly. So the thought balloons here. Barbaric is basically telling Dragon about the wedding, all the stuff, right? Why me? He must want something. And he's thinking, this ought to score me some points. So I don't know if it's necessary. You know, I think it would be inferred from what we know before that Barbaric obviously is trying to take the advantage of the situation. So yeah, relating to the wedding, he's asking Dragon to be his best man. And Dragon kind of doubts that he was his first choice. And that's kind of what we're getting with the thought balloons. I guess, you know, Larson thought maybe it wouldn't come across without the word balloons, thought balloons. Just an odd kind of feeling to not have any and all of a sudden for them to be there. So Barbaric gets his haircut and Ricochet busts in because, you know, she's asking him, who are all these people that you've invited to her wedding, right? And I don't know exactly how Larson, I guess you can mention the names without showing them. So she's naming some of the guests: Superman, the Fantastic Four, Leonard the Duck. Is that Howard? Like, I guess Howard couldn't be used for some reason. Change it to Leonard, but not Fantastic Four and Superman haven't been changed. I don't know exactly how this works, but yeah. So inferring basically again that you know, the Image universe and Marvel universe are one basically, because they talk. He also says here, come on, because he says, you know, all superheroes invite tons of other superheroes to their wedding, right? Like Reed and Sue. So he's talking about obviously Reed Richards and Susan Storm, who are two of the members of the Fantastic Four. So again, I guess he's implying that it's all just one big universe here. And that'll come into play soon as we start seeing the guests who are showing up to the wedding. And this is the fun part of the issue. Not the other stuff isn't, but you know, getting ready for the wedding. And then a bunch of characters show up, and it's just nice to try to name them before the text gives it away. But, you know, I'll try my best. Already, as I was going through the issue, I recognize these guys and their costumes, but I wasn't sure. It's the DNA agents, right? And then as we got down here, I recognized a lot of these characters. Obviously, Vanguard's been here before, but this guy, he's like a Golden Age character. I'm not quite sure exactly what his name is. Maybe he says it here. Doesn't. So the one character I recognize, Megaton, he does mention, right? Or Megaton, I guess. This guy, he's kind of a Batman ripoff. I've seen him around for years. I'm not exactly sure, you know, who has the rights to that and who publishes that. But I guess I'm going to assume because he's got all the copyright written down, I'll show you guys, you know, if you really want to know who all these characters are, they're all kind of down here with whoever owns their copyright, right? So Shadowhawk real quick, you know, Jim Valentino. And I didn't notice Shadowhawk in my first go-around, so I'll try to pay attention there. So Femforce, right? This is a comic that was pretty popular in the 80s, but I feel like they're using old characters from the 30s and 40s, maybe. I'm not quite sure how that works, or analogs to them, right? You know, I know there's public domain characters that have been in the public domain for quite a few years already now. Old Golden Age heroes that weren't constantly in publication, right? So I was surprised, yeah, to start seeing all these licensed characters as I was going through the issue. I wasn't expecting that. Now that I know, obviously, I can point them out to you. There's Vampirella, right? There's Wildstar back there. Hellboy comes back, right? And again, that old Larson way of, you know, using the Hellboy Mike Mignola aesthetic when drawing him works really well. Looks like Hellboy. And all throughout, there's going to be some of that with the characters that appear. Destroyer Duck back here. This is some anime character. Don't know his name. Is it? Or is that Kaboom? Who is kind of an anime ripoff character? Anyways, that's pretty obscure. I forget these guys' names. But I know for sure they come from some other comic book. Did John Byrne draw it? Anyways, let me know in the comments. This I thought was hilarious. Again, a caricature of a real world figure. Pretty sure that's Elton John, right? Playing piano at the wedding there. That's pretty hilarious. And then this panel here, right? I'd seen this somewhere else, but yeah, you can definitely, you know, Batman and Robin right here, you know, handily cut off and framed so that, you know, you're not sure if it's Batman, because a lot of characters have this kind of look here. Who is this guy again? Is that a Larson character? I don't know for sure. Yeah, so typical of any superhero wedding, once again, we got the bad guys kind of busting in. These characters are from Bone, right? I love the splash page here. I have to wonder about this character. They call him Arm, right? So looks a lot like Pit. So I guess he's called Armpit. And I mean, funnily enough, the first shot of him, you do get a pretty good view of his armpits. It's basically Pit with pigtails instead of a ponytail and a bunch of skulls. I mean, I kind of like it, right? But you got to wonder, was there some sort of argument over, you know, using Pit in the comic? And, you know, maybe last minute Eric Larson had to change him up a bit into Arm because he didn't have the copyright or the, you know, the rights to use him in the book. I don't know for sure, but, you know, he's definitely, you know, pulling a rib on Dale Keown here. For what reason, I'm not quite sure. Again, if anyone knows, well, let me know in the comments. Pin up by Joseph Zakaris. I think I got that right. Pretty porny kind of, I guess beef, what would you call that? Cheese, pulp, beefcake-ish? I don't know for sure what you'd call that, but yeah. But well done, really well done. I think it looks great. Is this the guy who does the Dart miniseries? If not, their art style I find is similar. I think it's him, but I'm not sure. I don't just remember that name off the top of my head, but I feel like it's the same guy who does Dart, which I still have to get and have a look at because that art looks amazing. So again, we're going through the superhero, supervillain trope at the wedding. You know, Eric Larson's heroes fighting off all these bad guys, including Arm again. Great shot here. You know, it would have been nice if it'd been Pit, you know, kind of a crossover situation with Full Bleed Studios, I'm assuming at this point. Maybe that's why there were issues there. But yeah, I mean, you know, not veiled enough. It's pretty much Pit. And I mean, this is a conceit of the book where I'm surprised that all these villains actually, or antagonists or whatever you call them, actually agree to this. But Ricochet just kind of turns around and yells at them for ruining her wedding and like, stop ruining my wedding. And they actually just acquiesce and stop fighting. So I don't know story-wise, but I get it. We're nearing the end of the issue. He's going to kind of wrap this one up. We got Zot here. We got Madman, Wildstar again, Zealot. I didn't point out the Wildcats. They were in a panel there earlier. Ninja Turtle. We got Cerebus. Not sure who this character is, but I feel like I've seen him before. And here's another cool one where he's doing Monkey Man and O'Brien. I believe these two. That would be O'Brien. This would be Monkey Man, right? Even there, you know, he did Hellboy. he kind of did the Mike Mignola inking. I feel like here he's really kind of copying Arthur Adams type inking for the Arthur Adams character. He's very good at it. Wedding, obviously, eventually kind of goes through. So we got the obligatory splash. Looks pretty good. Characters looking on. Just a few interesting things here. Tones down the nipples on Ricochet on this one. More of a family-friendly image, I guess. Again, you can see most, if not all, the characters there. If you keep going to the background, even the farther back characters are fairly identifiable. There's Electro, I assume. Maul from Wildcats. Is that Peter Parker? Probably. Is that the only screen tone used in this issue? Probably as well. It's the first time. Oh, well, there's a bit here. So maybe he just used it on this pinup for some reason. I guess aesthetically, just to make it, bump it up a bit, make it a little more illustrative. And artists take note just of the way he draws roses here. Amazing. They're just scruffy, kind of rough lines, but they just convey exactly what they need to. He's just found a very good shorthand way of drawing roses. You know, if I ever have to draw roses at some point, this is what I'm going to copy. Just the one little face there is kind of funny. And the ending is a little bit anticlimactic. Obviously, you know, the throwing of the flowers and the garter belt and all that, and ending it on the dragon, receiving it on his fin, just feels a little stilted as an end and kind of weird, but that's basically where the book leaves us off. And with another slight cameo from a character who shouldn't be there, the Thing. Got the letter page. No interesting images or anything. No, I guess that's it. There you go, guys. That's going to end my review of the Savage Dragon issue 41. If you're still watching and you're subscribed, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. If you're watching but not subscribed, please do so below. It really helps the channel, helps grow our numbers, and helps get us out there to other people who are into comic books just like we are. We're reaching for that first milestone of 500 subscribers, so if you can help out, please do. Thanks again for watching, and have an awesome day. King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13. 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KINGCOMICS.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.